Um,
Sorry.
and one of the misconceptions about March of Dimes is that we only help people with mobility disabilities, but that's not correct. We help everyone with an invisible or visible disability. And we were founded in 1950. And we used to be called Ontario March of Dimes because we only service Ontario. And then I believe in either the late 2000s, like 2010s or early 2000s, not sure quite the exact date, but we became March of Dimes Canada, and now we service people from across Canada. Not all the provinces yet, but some of the main larger cities. And we really are helping a lot of the people with disabilities with, again, being more independent. And in our program, we help with the employment part of it. So in terms of employment services, as I mentioned, my role is a little bit of everything. So it's just a wraparound service. So from once you do register, we help with the career exploration, the goal setting. So if you are not quite sure of what you're wanting to get into, or you're just your goals, maybe you've done many different things in the past, or you do have specific goal, wherever you are, we'll try to help you and guide you and support you. We also help with the resumes, the cover letters, the interview preparation, and also the job search. Some clients come into our program already having a lot of experience or a lot of knowledge on job searching, or they just have no clue. We have a lot of clients that haven't worked in a while or maybe have now lost their job after 30 years, and the job market is completely different than it was 30 years ago. So just helping them in learning those new skills, getting like applications going, just guiding them through the whole process. And we also help in skills training and confidence building. So if there's any skills that they are needing, or they want to upgrade their skills, then we help in finding those resources, or if we can help with those upskilling, then we can pursue that. We also help in, I guess that's the next part, on the job support. So I don't know if that mentioned here, but I'll go from here to this one. So once you are job searching, we also support you in reaching out to employers for you. So you'll do your part in job applications, handing out resumes, and all of that. But we also behind the scenes do help in connecting you with employers and reaching out to them, following up on your application. If there is any connections with employers we've had before, then we try to reach out to them. And we do a lot of on the job support. So if you are needing job coaching once you begin, or even if it's just the first 20, 30 minutes of when you start a job, just because you want to get settled in a little bit more comfortable, we're able to do that. Or even sometimes we get calls or emails from employers a month later and say so and so is maybe struggling with this task, or whatever it is, we're able to go in or be that mediator between the employer and the client. And so once you do register with our program, there's not really like a timeline. There's not like 2 months and you're out. You're with us until we help you find employment. Of course, if you are continuing to participate and you are job searching and you're meeting with your employment counselors, then we obviously continue to support you. There are those times where some clients kind of just go MIA for 2 months, 3 months, and we're just wondering like, where have they been? Are they searching for employment? And that's when we're like kind of have the conversation of like closing that file. But if you're actively pursuing job searching and applying and coming to us, there's only when you do start work where there is a timeline. So from this time that you start work that first day, then retention, we call it monitoring, where it's a year and then we close your file. So for a year from the time you start work, we kind of just check in on a monthly basis, just making sure everything's going well at work. If there's any support that you may need, if there's anything that the employer might want us to talk to the client about, for a whole year, we'll support you. Sometimes jobs that you might get might be seasonal. So maybe after 3 months, you might not be laid off because maybe it was during the summer. The year still continues running, but we can continue finding more employment for you. So it doesn't mean that once you end a job, that's it. Like we continue helping you in finding more work. It's only after a year, but even after the year passes, like and we close your file, if employed or unemployed, you're still able to re-register, and then we continue helping you again. There's no like time that you have to wait or anything. Literally, like the next day, we can just open up your file and then continue helping you again. So, but it's just so that after a year, if you are doing well, if you're working and you're fine, then we don't want you to be with us forever. We want you to be independent. We hopefully give you all the tools that you need to continue in succeeding in that job. Um, in terms of accommodation, so really for accommodations, if a person has disclosed to us that they need an accommodation at work, whatever that is, it can range from a mobility accommodation to really just maybe more frequent breaks to maybe a task list or maybe scheduling. So whatever the accommodation can be, we would disclose that to the employer. We don't disclose any disability, of course, as long as the client would want us to. Sometimes the clients just feel more comfortable as disclosing a disability. But if not, we're just disclosing accommodation. If you feel like your disability doesn't really affect you in your job or you don't really necessarily need an accommodation, then again, we're not mentioning anything to the employer. It's just as long as you're wanting us to disclose. And so that I guess is the great part about March of Dimes is like we do have connections to those employers who know our clients are coming in with some sort of disability. Of course, again, we don't disclose it, but they know that they are having some kind of barrier. So they are a little bit more open minded and just more accommodating in that sense. Where also, if they are feeling like that client is not performing well or is struggling with something, then they know that they can come to us and then we can have that conversation with the client or maybe just go in and support. Um, Yes, I think that was all about retention. And also, and I think that's going to be a next slide, but in retention, we also want the client to stay with us because if there is any financial support that we can provide, then we can help them throughout that. That could be transportation or uniform or anything really like that, which I'll talk about in the next slide, I think. Yes. Um, so in our employment program, which is also the same for any other employment program in Ontario, through Employment Ontario, we have funding that's called, for short, is ERFS, but it's called Employment Related Employment. I didn't even fix that. Employment Related Financial Supports. Um, but that is for anything that is employment related that you may need. So that could be medical support. So anything that is a temporary barrier to that employment. That could be glasses. That could be anything that can help you in that job that maybe you don't necessarily can get through your maybe your ODSP or your OW or just your regular financial means, then we can see we can help get that. That can help you then get that employment. Another one is short-term transportation expense, which is just the most common one, and I guess the most common barrier people have. Of course, in Toronto, you're going to be probably commuting, taking a TTC. So we're able to, on a monthly basis, load your Presto. If you're coming to our office to job search, if you're also maybe going to job fairs or networking events, or even once you start working for a bit, you're still not getting your pay stub or your checks or your money. And so we help you in loading your Presto. Sometimes there is times when we pay for maybe gas. Maybe you're driving at the beginning of you going to work. You might not have the money to pay for gas, especially nowadays because it's crazy expensive. Sometimes we also pay for Uber. Like I had an example, I had a client today who started working at the Toronto Zoo today and he started at 6 a.m. And unfortunately, he has to begin like 5:40, right? So the buses don't run at that time. So we were able to pay for some of his Uber rides to get there because there is no transportation. And without that transportation, he wouldn't be able to get to work. So that's a major barrier for him. So things like that, we can, if there's a good reason and rationale for that, we can fund it. Another thing is work clothing or grooming. Work clothing, it could be either uniform that you may need, certain clothing you may need for work, or even for interview clothes. Sometimes people haven't gone for an interview in ages, or maybe it's just out of date, or maybe you've lost weight, you've gained weight, doesn't fit. You just need new interview clothing. We can support that as well. Or even if it's not interview clothing, what has happened now is sometimes ODSP, I think, used to give, it was called the ESEP, but now they kind of anything, if a client is registered with employment services, now they kind of go to us if there's any support in terms of clothing or anything that a client may need. So even if it's a winter jacket or winter clothing you may need, we can also fund that. Grooming, so sometimes you need to look nice, so haircuts we can also fund. Costs related to occupational certification. So any occupational certifications that you may need for that job that you're searching for. Maybe you found that once you are job searching, the certification is needed. So we are able to fund that. Again, depending on the cost, it's all case by case basis. Short-term training costs too. So what I've heard is that the short-term training cost is only for training that is up to 4 weeks. So anything longer than that would probably not be able to fund. So is anything short-term training. So some of our clients have taken some financial courses that are virtual, their food handlers, their smart serves, security license. So anything small that you think that would help you at better your chances of getting that job. Or sometimes clients are job searching for a particular role and they see that a lot of the jobs are asking for a particular skill or certification. Then we're able to look into it and pay for those. And emergency or infrequent childcare, this is not a forever thing, but let's say you have a child that you take care of, and you have an interview tomorrow, and you can't find any childcare, and we may be able to kind of do an emergency or a frequent childcare, maybe for that first week of work, until you find something more permanent. Then we're able to fund that. Honestly, in the past, I don't think we've ever used this. But it's there. So if you do need it, because one of the things that we talk about in our employment program is if you are finding work, we need to talk about what will happen to that childcare, or maybe you do take care of an elderly person or whatever it is, of what your plan is, right? So, but if it's an emergency, we are able to support that. But if anything else does come up that is a barrier or you're needing support with, then it's a conversation. It just needs a reasoning for it. And in terms of client expectations and participation, so a lot of clients, I wouldn't say a lot, but some clients do come into our program and or just any employment program and maybe assume that we're kind of like a placement service where you just come in, you're like, I want this job, and I'm like, here you go, right? And I wish I could do that for everybody. That would be my goal, but unfortunately, that's not the way it works. You do have to participate. You do have to meet with your employment team. We want to get to know you and your needs and your accommodations and kind of what you're looking for, so that we don't put you in a random job and then you end up quitting a week later, or maybe just something that's not suitable for you, because we want you to get work and succeed at it and retain it. So getting to know our clients, but also the client showing that motivation, just so that we know that we are presenting a motivated, eager, and ready client to an employer. Sometimes a person might come in and say, I'm ready, and then we put them in a job, and then they're late an hour or they're not showing up. And therefore, that's why we try to have like a few meetings before we then kind of present you to an employer, because the worst thing is a person leaving the job, that employer doesn't trust us anymore with the client. And also, we may not trust that client again, because we might not want to jeopardize another employer. So we just want to make sure the client is ready, they're participating. Sometimes, of course, clients are more ready than others. They might just be looking for that job. They already have their resume, they're already good with their interview skills, they know what they're looking for. So that might go quicker. Some clients don't have a resume, are not sure what they're looking for. So, and it's fine as long as you're just engaging, meeting with us. Our meetings are usually either, depending on the client, are either a bi-weekly basis or a monthly basis. Depends on the availability, but we always are there if you need any support. So if we're meeting with you on a monthly basis, but maybe you have an interview coming up and you want to practice your interview skills, you can definitely message us, call us, and then we'll try to squeeze you into a meeting or a phone meeting, just so that we can prep you, because the goal is for you to get that job, right? So, and we want you to be prepared. Something that I mentioned is also our meetings are hybrid. So if you are wanting to come to our office, we are at York Mills and Leslie, and it's our only office in Toronto, but we do have an office in York region and Peel region. So if you are in the GTA, you are able to go to those offices. Sometimes a lot of people who are kind of on the cusp, like Richmond Hill, kind of like Etobicoke, um, kind of those areas, they do register with Toronto office if they're looking for a Toronto job, just because we have the Toronto contacts. So if you're wanting to work within Toronto, but if you're wanting something closer to home, then I do recommend registering with those offices just because they have connections in those areas. But we are hybrid. We do want to meet the client at least once in person, just so that we have that rapport. And also, if you're meeting with me later on with an employer, I know what you look like. I know you know what I look like, so that we know. So at least once. But if it's easier to meet hybrid, virtual, it's really just up to the client. Um, I think that's all in terms of expectations and motivations. And just under the ministry, we are having to meet at least once with the client. So if you don't get back to us after like 2 months of us trying to contact you, then we may close the file, because one, you may not be looking for a job, you may not be ready yet, or maybe you already found a job and you just, haven't gone back to us. So, but at least we do need 1 month of contact, if that's email, or you may sometimes clients might be, I'm not looking for a job for this month. I'm having to take care of blah blah blah, and it's fine. We can just kind of have files on hold. It's just at least just contacting us once a month to just kind of check in, and that way we can kind of keep assisting you and supporting you. Actually, something I didn't mention is we do have online workshops and in-person workshops. So we have online workshops on resume, cover letters, job search, and various job searching. So using AI in job search, how to keep motivated when job searching is not going so great, or just how to job search in general. There's also interview skills. There's like so many workshops we have virtually, and in person, we're trying to have those also. We're starting to kind of get in person now because we just moved to a new office and our group kind of space is now done. So we're kind of having more people in. So those workshops we're trying to start back again. But we do have those workshops. And I will have a slide on the next thing, that another training, which will be the next slide. But if you are wanting to be part of our employment program, it's really just contacting us. So you can contact me by phone or email, and then I will do a eligibility screening to see if you are suitable for our program. Eligibility for our program is really, you just have to have a disability. We don't need any documentation disclosing your disability, as long as you just self-disclose that. That you are living in the area of that office. So for us, it's Toronto, and that you're not registered with another employment program. Just because the Employment Ontario only allows one program per client, so you can't be registered with more than one. So as long as you're not registered with anybody, you can register with us. But if there is a case where you are registered with someone else and you're just wanting to change, we just request that you ask that service provider to close your file. Once that's done, then we can open your file with us. But that's really all eligibility requirements. Sometimes we accept clients who are unemployed or underemployed. So if you're working 20 hours and now you're wanting to get more hours, or maybe you're working 10 hours and you need something else, then you can register with us. If you're working a full-time job, that's where we have to ask more questions, where why is it that you want to leave your full-time job? Is it because of your disability? Maybe it's not accommodating or suitable, then yes. If it's like, I don't like this job, I want to get another one, we might not register you just because we want to focus on unemployed and underemployed clients. And you might be at the end of that list, so it might just be not the best if you register. But it just depends on a case-by-case basis. So once we Once you are eligible, then we'll schedule an intake appointment with either myself or the employment counselor, and that can be again virtual or in person. And after that, it's just kind of discussing your goals and going from there to what support you may need. And after that, you kind of would just begin your employment journey. A lot of clients ask like, how fast will I get a job, right? And I know that's like an important question to ask. But in this job market, it's kind of hard. Some clients register and then within like, a few weeks, they have a job because maybe a job popped in or a job lead came in and it's suitable for them and they're ready to start work. Sometimes the client's not ready, or maybe that certain job will come up and maybe it's not a high peak for that job, right? So maybe in a few weeks, a month, that can happen for them. But as long as they are kind of participating, we're looking for networking events, job fairs, employers to meet. We're always kind of supporting, and we always want clients to actively be working on their skills. So even if it's taking a little longer, we don't want you just like sitting at home doing nothing. Just applying for those jobs, working on your interview skills, networking. Sometimes we do encourage and informational interviews. So maybe getting meetings with some employers. They might not be hiring, but maybe it's great for them to network with the client in the future. Maybe they are hiring, or maybe the client is not sure if they want to get into that and maybe looking into maybe asking more questions about that field or that maybe that employer. So we're always wanting them to always be participating or always having an activity to do so that they don't feel like they're just waiting and waiting. But that is about the program. We also have our Skilling Up program. Our Skilling Up program is separate from our employment program, but we work kind of together just because a lot of our clients do register for our Skilling Up program. There's three parts to our Skilling Up program. They used to be separate, but they found that a lot of people got confused, so they put it all into one. So the first part of the Skilling Up program, which is funded by TELUS, was called Tech for Good. So really, this program is for people who are not too sure on how to access or how to use their assistive or accessibility options to their devices. So that could be your phone, computer, iPad, tablet, whatever it is, on how to access those accessibility supports on your devices. And then you have one-on-one meetings and they teach you on how to use those. The second part is the digital fundamentals, which is if someone is not too sure of how to even just the basics of a computer or just of Microsoft Teams, how to use that, Zoom, how to use, texting, emailing, calling, that is a program for them. You also have one-on-one meetings and group meetings on how to use any of those. And then the last one is a little bit more on virtual programs and then it's just based on whenever you have the time. It's self learning. So it's funded by LinkedIn and Microsoft, and these are all various virtual programs. So on how do you do Microsoft Office Suite, AI, maybe cybersecurity. There's also like on administrative professionals. So kind of just the basics of that. And once you finish each certification, you kind of move on to the next. In the Skilling Up program, there's also mentors. So apart from us, you also have another employment counselor that helps you through the Skilling Up program and also tries to book you with mentors within that field you're wanting to get into to kind of ask more questions or kind of guide you of where to go with that. So usually for clients who do register with the program, we encourage them to do Skilling Up because it's just the more help you can get, it's the best. The more support, and also upskilling is great. Anything you can add to that resume is amazing. So we always encourage people to do Skilling Up. And these are just other programs at March of Dimes. To be honest, I fully know more about employment services and Skilling Up. These are kind of just other programs that we have. Like we have brain injury services, attendant care and supportive housing, aphasia services, stroke, like our after stroke program, accessible modifications, so home and vehicle modifications, developmental disability and life skills program. We do have a youth program. We call it the Paving the Path to Work, which is a program for people who are haven't had a job in the past. Usually it's more like younger adults with disabilities that doing that program. And then they kind of get those like basic main skills, and then they register with our employment program. Once they go through that program, it's 6 weeks. You don't necessarily need to be a youth or a young adult. It's just if you haven't had a job in a while, then we do encourage you to go to this program just to kind of refresh those skills, those main skills that you need in the job. And then children programs. So we have a lot of programs for kids in our office. Most of them are in person, and then Polio Canada. But yeah, so these are kind of various services we have. And there's a lot more information on the website if you are wanting more and how to access these. Um, but honestly, that's it. This is my contact information. So if you do want to get more information or to join our program, that's my contact. You can email me or call me. And yeah, if there's any questions, then I can definitely answer questions.
Thank you. I have a
Should I?
question.
Yeah,
Can were your can you know the slide before this one?
this one.
Yeah, this one. So you were saying about a 6-week program. You have the development, disability, and life skills program. Is